Terminal C, 3:47 in the morning. A woman named Delfina Ocampo sits down on a plastic chair next to a slot machine she has walked past for 6 years, pulls a warm empanada out of a foil wrapper, and in the next 11 minutes becomes $8,240,000 richer. She was on her break. She was still wearing latex gloves, and the machine that paid her had been flagged for removal the following Monday. Let me take you back. October of 2019. A regional airport tucked into the hills outside a mid-sized city in the American Southwest. I'll call it Mesa Verde International because the real name doesn't matter and the story is what matters. Mesa Verde was one of a small handful of airports in the country that ran a licensed gaming lounge past security. Not a full casino, just a strip of 42 machines lined up against a glass wall in Terminal C, between a shuttered sushi bar and the gate for the 6 a.m. red-eye to Dallas. Travelers would kill an hour there, feed a 20, lose a 20, board their flight. The machines were operated by a small regional gaming company, let's call them Sunridge Interactive, under a lease with the airport authority. Sunridge was a middle-tier outfit, not sloppy, not glamorous. They ran maybe 600 machines across truck stops, tribal partnerships, and this one weird airport contract that nobody at corporate ever really understood how they'd landed. Delfina was 49 years old, born in Sonora, moved north when she was 22, worked cleaning contracts for the airport authority since her second child was in diapers. Overnight shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., Tuesday through Saturday. She emptied trash cans, mopped floors, wiped down the seating in the gate areas. She did not gamble. Not once. Not on birthdays, not on paydays, not when her cousin flew in from Vegas and begged her to come try a slot machine at the truck stop off Interstate 10. She thought slot machines were, quote, loud toys for lonely men, and I'm quoting her directly from the deposition that would come later. Here's what she did do on her break. She sat in the same plastic chair, at the same end of the gaming lounge, because it was the quietest corner of Terminal C at 3 in the morning, and she ate. That was the whole ritual. Empanada, thermos of coffee, 22 minutes of silence before she went back to buffing the floors. The machine next to her chair was a progressive linked to a statewide jackpot pool, a dollar denomination reel game, one of those loud spinning reel things with a country music theme. Sunridge had marked it for removal because in 6 years on the airport floor, that specific unit had the lowest hold percentage in the entire fleet, meaning it had been paying out more than the company liked. Not because it was broken, because it just kept catching mid-tier hits, over and over, at a pace slightly above the math. Corporate wanted it swapped for a newer video slot with a tighter RTP. The service ticket was already written. Techs were flying in Monday morning. Now here's where it gets interesting. Around 3:40 in the morning, a man Delfina had never seen before walked up to her machine. Business traveler, suit jacket over one arm, roller bag, drunk enough that he was working hard to look sober. He fed a $100 bill into the machine, pressed max bet 3 times, and lost every spin. He cursed under his breath, slapped the glass, and walked off toward the gate without cashing out. 41 cents were left on the credit meter. Delfina noticed. She told the investigators later that she noticed because he'd hit the glass. She thought he was going to break it, and she was already mentally rehearsing what she'd say to airport security. When he left, she leaned over to look at the little digital display. 41 cents, just sitting there, blinking. And she thought, and this is her line, not mine, she thought, well, somebody's going to take that. So she sat down, in her chair, pulled the machine slightly closer with one gloved hand, and pressed the spin button. Once, to burn off the 41 cents so she could stop thinking about it and eat her empanada in peace. The machine spun. It landed on nothing. 12 cents left. She pressed it again. Nothing. 6 cents. She pressed it a third time expecting the credit to zero out. And the reels, 3 of them side by side, all showing the same little cartoon horseshoe, locked into place with a sound she later described as like a microwave finishing. The screen went black for half a second. Then it lit up with the word jackpot in letters the size of her forearm. A siren started going off. Lights on top of the machine began spinning. Somewhere in a server room 3 states away, a progressive counter that had been building for 11 months rolled to zero and started over. $8,240,016. Delfina did not move. She did not scream. She did not cry. She did not call anyone. She sat there, still holding her empanada in her left hand, and watched the numbers on the screen for what surveillance later timed at 4 minutes and 11 seconds. The only thing she did was set the empanada down carefully on the chair next to her because she said the foil was getting greasy and she didn't want it on her uniform. An airport security officer eventually walked over because of the siren. Then, the shift manager for the gaming lounge. Then the on-call rep from Sunridge, who had to be woken up at his home 40 minutes away and driven to the terminal by his teenage son because his own car was in the shop. And this is where the story goes sideways. Sunridge did not want to pay. Their argument when it came was three-pronged, and it was ugly. Number 1, Delfina was an airport employee, and the lounge had a posted rule barring, quote, airport-affiliated personnel from playing the machines. Number 2, she had used credit left by a previous player without depositing her own money, which they argued invalidated the wager. And number 3, and this is the one that made the story national, the machine was scheduled for removal, and Sunridge's lawyers floated the theory that it had been running in a, quote, pending decommission state, and that any jackpot it awarded during that window was not binding on the operator. That third argument was, in a word that a state gaming commissioner used publicly, garbage. Real quick, and this is the one honest aside I'll drop in the middle of this thing. Watching a company try to weasel out of a legitimate hit is why I'm picky about where I ever put money down myself. If I play, it's places I've checked payouts on with my own eyes, because the machine paying is only half of it. The operator honoring the ticket is the other half. Where exactly? I left in the description. Back to Delfina. The State Gaming Commission opened a review the following Tuesday. What they found made Sunridge's position collapse. The employee rule Sunridge cited applied to gaming floor staff, dealers, techs, cashiers, not to third-party janitorial contractors employed by the airport authority. Delfina was not a Sunridge employee. She had never worked one shift for them. The pending decommission argument had no basis in the actual regulatory framework. A machine on the floor accepting wagers was, by definition, a live machine. And the 41-cent credit left by the previous player? The Commission's own rulebook was crystal clear. Once money is deposited into a machine and not cashed out, whoever presses the button next is the legal wagerer. The drunk businessman had walked away. Delfina had spun. Delfina had won. Sunridge paid. Not immediately, not gracefully, but 6 weeks later, after a very brief and very quiet mediation, they cut the check. Here's the detail almost nobody talks about. The tech order to pull that machine went out the Friday before Delfina hit. If corporate had approved overtime for a weekend swap instead of scheduling it for Monday, that unit would already have been sitting on a pallet in a warehouse when she sat down on her break. The techs who eventually came to remove it after the payout said the machine tested perfectly. No malfunction, no glitch. It had simply, over 6 years, been slightly luckier than the math wanted it to be, right up until the moment it wasn't anyone's problem anymore. Delfina finished her shift that night. She did. She mopped the floor of gate C14, emptied her cart, clocked out at 6:02 in the morning, and drove home in the same 1998 sedan she'd driven for 11 years. She told her husband over breakfast. He didn't believe her until the phone rang at 9. She kept working for another 4 months, said it gave her time to think. Then she quit, paid off her sister's mortgage in Hermosillo, bought a small house with a yard for her grandkids, and put the rest into a trust her son helps manage. She has, to my knowledge, never touched a slot machine again. So here's the question I'll leave you with. The drunk businessman who fed a $100 bill into that machine and walked away with 41 cents on the meter, do you think he's the unluckiest man in America or the luckiest? Because if he'd stayed for one more spin, he'd have $8 million. But if he'd stayed for one more spin, he might also have kept feeding 20s until the jackpot was gone, and Delfina would still be eating an empanada in a plastic chair at 3:47 in the morning. Drop your take in the comments. I read them. And if this kind of story is your thing, you know what to do.